Hello, Packers fans, and welcome to your Wednesday edition, Week 1 edition of the Pack Attack Cast. Before you know it, the Green Bay Packers will be taking the field against the Detroit Lions. I'm going to be so excited to be there at Lambeau Field and giving you as much information as I can up until kickoff, as well as giving you my post-game thoughts after the game. We are here. It is week 1. It's been months of anticipation. It's been months of work for not only our channel, but of course the Green Bay Packers as they get ready for week number 1. And along with that, I just want to say we are at 8,820 subs as of this morning. We need 180 subs to get to our goal of 9,000 subs before the start of the season. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. If you have, give us a like, because that will also help us get subscribers. We would love to get to that $9,000 number, or 9,000 number of subs. I wish it was 9,000. And if we can get to that number, we're going to try to do a live stream at Lambeau Field right before the game. Just a quick blurb to recognize the fact that we got to 9,000 subs before the start of the season. If you can help us get there, we would really appreciate it. So in my mind, the ramp up for this game really starts today. The Packers were off yesterday. They practiced on Monday, and today is going to give us our best indication of who's going to be available for Sunday. The last couple practices, there's been situations where players have been out, and we're not sure if it's due to injury or due to veteran rest or what have you. So participation today is very important. We'll have an update on that. Tomorrow morning, we'll have an update on participation and how that will impact the game on Sunday. But as we get closer and closer to the game, there's less time for veteran rest, less time for taking precautions. It is go time. It is critical for certain players like Nate Hobbs to get on the practice field today, so he has a couple days of ramping up before he's up against Amon St. Brown on Sunday. The Packers need to make some decisions before this practice, because whoever's going to be in the game on Sunday needs to get the reps for the rest of the week. So if we get a report saying Nate Hobbs participated in practice today, that gives me a really good indication that he will be ready there for week 1, for example. If we hear Nate Hobbs sat out today, then it's going to become much more iffy for Sunday. I talked about the possibility yesterday that if Nate Hobbs isn't at 100%, it's possible that the Packers might put him in only on nickel defense and have him focus on the slot and let Valentine play on the outside along with Nixon for at least this game. But we'll get a better feel for that when we get notes on practice today. So this is a huge practice for the Green Bay Packers. Everything is focused on Micah Parsons, and I get that. He is a difference maker for this team. But the Green Bay Packers and Green Bay Packers fans cannot go into this game thinking, we got Micah Parsons, we're going to win this game just because we have Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is going to be limited to maybe 15 or 20 snaps in this game. Can he be a difference maker, especially on third and long? Absolutely, Micah Parsons can be. Not just because of his individual play, but because him being on the field makes it easier for the entire the entire defense to be much more effective. Micah Parsons is an X factor. He is a multiplication factor. He makes the rest of the team better. But Micah Parsons cannot win this game on his own. The Green Bay Packers, as a unit, need to win this game on Sunday. It's not Micah Parsons' game to win. It is the whole team's game to win. It comes down to Matt LaFleur calling a good play calls. It comes to Jeff Hafley making the most out of the defensive players he has on the field on Sunday. It's about Jordan Love executing. It's about the running game being dominant and taking time off the clock for that Lions offense. And it's about the defensive tackles holding in and doing enough to stop the run that the Lions don't just run the ball down the Packers' throat series after series. And a lot of that is going to have to do with team defense. With Kenny Clark not in the center of this defensive line, the defensive tackles need to do everything they can. The linebackers need to support against the run like they've never done before. The secondary needs to crash on run support like there's no tomorrow. This whole defense has to work together to stop the Lions. It's not just Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is not able. It's not like you could put the Detroit Lions on one side of the field and put Micah Parsons on the other side, and Micah Parsons is going to find a way to win the game by himself. That is not the way this game is going to go. So some other notes before we start to really look at this matchup that's coming up this week. Matthew Golden was named a starter on the outside. That's not a surprise to me. I've been predicting that probably since the second week of training camp. Matthew Golden can be an X factor in this game. We didn't see a lot of Matthew Golden in the preseason, but he's going to be out there every series for the Green Bay Packers. And that's an X factor that the Lions really can't prepare for. They have not seen a lot of tape on Matthew Golden. They have not played against Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden can be a difference maker because the Detroit Lions are going to have two keys in this game, in my opinion, on defense. They're going to try to stop Romeo Doubs because Romeo Doubs is a safety blanket for Jordan Love, and they need to stop Josh Jacobs and the rushing attack. Those are going to be 100% the focus for the Detroit Lions on defense. Matthew Golden is probably going to have one-on-one opportunities early in this game. Tucker Kraft is probably going to have battles that he can win at his position as well. These are the players that are going to make or break this offense this week. The Lions are going to try to take away the known quantities, but it's the unknown quantities, especially Matthew Golden, if he is dominant in this game, can really make a difference. Can Matthew Golden step up, rookie or not, and make plays, catch the ball, break coverage, find ways to be a difference maker in this game? I think Matthew Golden can. And just like the Packers on defense, and we're going to talk about this later, need to take away the known quantities for the Lions, the Packers' X factors are going to be these players that might have opportunities to shine, like Matthew Golden. So we're going to have to watch that very closely. So let's take a look at some of the factors I've been thinking about for this game. Okay? In my opinion, this game comes down to execution on offense, not Micah Parsons. I expect this to be a high-scoring affair like the last time they played the Lions in Detroit, and it came down to who had the ball last. The Packers need to avoid playing from behind or with a small lead. If the Packers have the opportunity to get a big lead in this game, that will really help them put a lot of pressure on the Lions to execute. The Lions have a new defensive coordinator. They have a new offensive coordinator. And the Lions didn't look like the same team in the preseason this year. Now, it is the preseason. Those were not necessarily the starters. But they didn't have that Lions vibe, that we are not going to get rolled over vibe. The Lions look vulnerable, and the Packers need to capitalize. The Lions have some interesting injury concerns going into this week. The Lions practiced yesterday, and their third wide receiver, Tesla, did not practice. And I'm wondering what that is about. Because the Lions traded away Tim Patrick, who was a very solid, consistent third wide receiver, and put their eggs into the Tesla basket at number 3 wide receiver. If Tesla has some sort of an injury that keeps him out of this game or limits him in this game, that's a huge factor, especially as a rookie player. If Tesla is focused on, oh, my ankle hurts, or I have this limitation or that limitation, suddenly this Lions offense becomes a lot less dangerous if they can't get consistent play out of their number 3 wide receiver. You can double up number 1 and number 2 and allow the pass rush to get to Jared Goff and not worry so much about Tesla. And if that's the case, that's really going to help the Packers in this game. Packers need to win time of possession, execute on offense, and they need to just do just enough on defense to have 2 or 3 more possessions than the Lions. Parsons can help with this, but it needs to be a team effort. The Packers roster right now is better than the team that took the field against the Lions week 14. And we're going to talk about that roster in just a little while. But the Packers need to show that they are a better roster than the team that lost by a field goal on the road in Detroit last year. I think the Packers can do that. I have every confidence that if the Packers execute, there's going to be just enough lack of continuity with the Lions that they can win this game. But it's going to be a tough game. This isn't Micah Parsons in the building, the Packers are going to win game. The whole Packers team, from the coaching staff to special teams to the offense to the defense, everybody's going to have to play their best football to win this game. Turnovers are going to be huge in a high-scoring game against 2 teams that are relatively equal. That's why I'm saying things like not fumbling on a kickoff, like we saw in the game against the Eagles in the playoffs. Now, I think the refs got that call wrong, but that was a huge momentum swing in that game. We can't have game things like that. The Packers need to execute on all phases of the game if they're going to beat the Lions. The Lions are a great, well-run, highly talented team that you're not going to win against unless you execute at a high level. And I hope the Packers are up for this. I look at the rosters, and these teams are very even. Now, in my opinion, they were even before they traded for Micah Parsons. And Micah Parsons should take it over the top and make the Packers the better team. But that's not necessarily going to happen week 1. The rest of the Packers need to win this game. Parsons is a factor that makes everyone on the Packers defense better. Rashawn Gary is going to have one-on-one matchups probably for the first time since he became a starter. LVN has been showing the ability to improve this year. He needs to take that into this game and be a factor. The defensive line needs to find ways to stop the run consistently in this game. The Detroit Lions will run the ball until the Packers tell them they can't run the ball, because Kenny Clark is not in the interior of the line. Now, we're going to talk about the matchups in a second, but one thing that does help the Packers in this game is one of the weaknesses for the Detroit Lions is their interior offensive line, which is going to go against those defensive tackles for the Packers. So I think in this game, those two squads are going to cancel each other out, because I think the interior line of the Lions is subpar. I think the defensive line for the Packers doesn't have the talent that it had before Kenny Clark left, and that's going to have a neutralizing effect. So if the Lions had the offensive line that they had last year, I would be much more concerned about this matchup than I am right now. But I think that the Packers can do enough to stop the run to negate that disadvantage at defensive tackle for this game. And this is a good opportunity for the Packers to discover who is going to step up and take Kenny Clark's place. Now, I think it's going to be a by committee situation. I think every defensive tackle for the Packers needs to play their A game this week if they're going to win. They need to do more in this game than the Lions' interior offensive line can do. They need to win that battle in the center of the game on running downs. Now, on passing downs, I think the interior offensive line for the Lions is also the biggest weakness, and the Packers need to find ways to get pressure through the interior in Jared Goff's face. So we're going to watch that very closely as we build up to this game. The Packers need to get a lead early and put pressure on the Lions to execute. The Packers cannot start this game slow. We cannot have the Packers have the ball in the fourth quarter and they're down by 4 and they need a touchdown. We don't need that. The Packers need to find a way to get the lead in this game and maintain that lead. Put the pressure on the Lions to execute. The Packers have more continuity on offense than the Lions. They need to take this game away from the Lions with execution. The Packers are going to go in this game as far as Jordan Love takes them in this game. We need to see the 2023 Jordan Love combined with the veteran we saw in training camp before his thumb injury. If we can get the playmaking of Jordan Love in 2023 plus the experience that Jordan Love got in 2024 and in training camp this year, we can have the best of both worlds, and Jordan Love can be not just a game manager, but a playmaker. We need both of those things. I've said it many times before that Jordan Love has traits we love from Brett Favre, and we have traits that he learned from Aaron Rodgers. He has both of those qualities. But what Jordan Love needs to do to become an MVP candidate is to take the gunslinger Favre mentality and combine it with the game management and execution of Aaron Rodgers. If he can put those two factors together, then I believe Jordan Love can be the leader that this team needs to take itself deep into the playoffs. The next message is very important, and I'm putting the call out to everybody that will be at the game on Sunday. Home field advantage needs to be a thing in this game. The crowd needs to be an X factor. The Lions need to feel the pressure of being on the road in this game. The crowd has to be behind the Packers. It needs to be causing confusion and challenges and make it hard for the Lions to hear on offense. We need everything we can do to help the Green Bay Packers on the field. I know that Packers fans are generally welcoming to the opponent, but I'm really hoping that since this is the home opener against the Lions, that there's going to be few Lions fans there, and the Packers can really take over the game from the stands as much as possible. That means we need to be quiet on offense, and we need to be loud on defense, and we need to be a factor in this game. So these are all things that Packers fans at the game can do. We need to be in it. We need to be supportive. We need to be loud. We need to take that home field advantage, the frozen tundra, and make it a factor in this game. Yeah, it might not be snowing, but we can still make the Lions feel uncomfortable. And that's a big factor in this game. I'm calling on Matt LaFleur and the Packers to be aggressive in this game. We need Matt LaFleur to call a great game, and the Packers need to be aggressive in key situations. We saw that in the preseason multiple times where the Packers went for it on fourth down, and they were very successful. The Packers have the playmakers on offense to be successful on fourth and short. They need to go for it. If the Packers are outside of field goal range and they're on the Lions side of the ball and it's 4th and 3 or less, the fourth down needs to be a go down. But at the same time, points matter in this game. Every time we get in field goal range or closer, points need to go on the board. I don't want to see us miss field goal opportunities. I don't want us to be conservative and punt the ball on the Lions side of the field. The Packers need to be aggressive in this game to put pressure on the Lions to execute. Execution is key. And you could look at all the stats from last year and how great the Lions were on fourth down, on third down, on efficiency, on running the ball. Throw those stats out because this is a new season and the Packers need to put the Lions in a position where they're forced to be as good as they were last year to win the game. And if the Packers can do that and the Lions stumble here and there, the Packers can win this game. But this is not going to be a Micah Parsons win the game. This is going to be the Green Bay Packers on offense and defense and special teams to find ways to win this game. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the key matchups in this game. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right, let's look at some of the key matchups in this game. We're going to start out with the Packers offense first. Okay? So this is base personnel, 2 tight ends for the Green Bay Packers. Okay? So this is 2 tight ends against the base defense for the Detroit Lions. Okay? Let's look at some factors here. Okay? I expect DJ Reed to be matched up with Romeo Doubs. This is completely within the realm of possibility. DJ Reed is the best corner that the Lions have. It makes sense that he would be focused on stopping Romeo Doubs. So I expect Romeo Doubs to make some plays in this game, but I also expect Reed to make plays in this game. I expect this matchup to largely be canceled out. Best corner against most experienced receiver. I expect this factor to cancel each other out. Both sides are going to make plays on this side of the ball, but I do think overall Romeo Doubs might be neutralized in this game. Let's go to the other side. We've got Arnold, which is a below average corner, against Matthew Golden, who is an unproven rookie. This is a matchup that the Packers need to win. The Packers need to find ways to put Matthew Golden in a position to consistently win this matchup right here. All right? It's very important. All right, so let's look at our tight ends, Musgrave and Kraft. If they're both on the field, they should be able to win against the Lions linebackers. One of these 2 players, either Kraft or Musgrave, needs to find a way to win a matchup and be available as an outlet for Jordan Love. They need to consistently win this game. Looking at the safeties for the Lions, we've got 2 very good safeties that are going to be both in run support and against the deep pass. The short and intermediate routes need to be where the Packers win this on offense. Jordan Love needs to be the game manager more than he needs to be the gunslinger in this game. Matthew Golden is open. Hit him for a completion. Tucker Kraft is open. Musgrave is open. Hit them for a completion. We need to dink and dunk and have long, sustained drives against the Lions to put pressure on them to execute on offense. Now, let's look at the offensive line for the Packers. Assuming everybody starts, and I think that they will, what the Packers need to do is they need to dominate in the running game on the right side of the Lions. So it would be left side of the Packers offense, right side of the Lions defense. This is where the advantages are for the Green Bay Packers. Davenport is a below average defensive end. Lopez is a below average defensive tackle. Reeder is very solid, and Hutchinson is an elite player. How do we take Hutchinson out of this game as much as possible? We push the ball on the left side of the field as much as possible. That means we get Golden on crossing routes. We find ways to get Doubs open. We get Musgrave and Kraft open on the left side of the offense. We try to take Hutchinson out of the game as much as possible. Aiden Hutchinson is going to make plays in this game. There's no way to avoid it, but we need to mitigate it by doing as much away from Hutchinson as we can, where we have an advantage on the left side of the offensive line. This is what Aaron Banks was brought in for. Aaron Banks can move people on his side of the field. If you tell me Rasheed Walker's going to push up, Banks is going to push up. Jenkins is going to push up. The Packers can get consistent leverage on the left side of the field for the offense. All right? So let's look at nickel personnel against 3 wide receiver personnel in this game. Okay? We still have the same advantages running the ball and on the left side of the field. Okay? This is where Reed can be a big factor because I like Jaden Reed more than I like the third corner for the Lions. So Jaden Reed, when he's in the field, needs to be a playmaker. He needs to be a difference maker in this game. No question about it. If Reed is canceled out by Dobbs, and here we would have Golden against Arnold, not Wicks. PFF needs to update this a little bit. But Golden against Arnold should be an advantage. Kraft against Azalone or Campbell should be an advantage for the Green Bay Packers. Because Tucker Kraft has looked great in training camp. I think Tucker Kraft can consistently win matchups in the nickel against the nickel for the Lions. Branch and Joseph are going to be good against the deep threat. Again, it's going to be about game management here. Josh Jacobs is a very underrated receiver out of the backfield. I think that's going to be a factor in this game. Screen passes are going to be a factor in this game. But I really like the matchups here for the Packers against the Lions if they're patient and consistently effective on offense. We need to get ahead of the chains and get to third and manageable and let our playmakers get first downs. I think the Packers are in a really good spot here if they execute. Now let's take a look at defense. And this is where a lot of the game is going to be won here, okay? Now, most of the time, instead of Parsons here, it's going to be probably LVN, unless they put LVN inside, all right? Now, let's look at the weaknesses for the Lions and how we can impact them on defense, okay? We have St. Brown. Oh, wait, let's switch to base personnel for the Lions just to get started, all right? So base personnel, now we're probably going to see 3 wide receiver sets a lot for the Lions, but in base personnel, the Lions are going to be trying to run the ball here, okay? So we've got Micah Parsons when he's in the game, and we have Rashawn Gary as the strengths of our defensive line. We have a little weakness here in the defensive tackles, but look at the interior offensive line for the Lions, and it makes me feel a lot better. Glasgow is a below-average center who's playing his first full game at center since college. That is a huge advantage here. Don't let this number from Mahogany fool you. This is only a few snaps last year. Mahogany is a very inexperienced left guard. He has very limited reps. Ratledge is a rookie. This is where the Packers need to win on defense, which is great because it goes against the weakness of the Packers at tackle. So we've got weakness against weakness here. Now, one of the things the Packers can do is they could take Micah Parsons and put him here and have Micah Parsons go against Glasgow, Mahogany, and Ratledge and put pressure up the center, and that will be a huge disadvantage for the Lions. So I expect the Packers to find ways on defense, especially on passing downs, to put pressure on the center of the offensive line for the Lions. This is the biggest weakness that the Lions have on offense, is the center of this offensive line. If the center of this offensive line crumbles more often than not, the Packers will win the game. So it's got to be down to putting pressure on the interior offensive line for the Lions. Let's take a look at the matchups here, okay? This is assuming everyone plays, okay? We've got Nate Hobbs against St. Brown, assuming Nate Hobbs plays. This is a mismatch that benefits the Lions substantially. We've got Williams against Nixon. I think this is a 50-50 proposition. I think Nixon can do enough against Williams to negate Williams. So when the Lions are on offense, we need to stop the run. Super critical here. We need to stop the run on early downs. And then Hobbs needs to hold up against St. Brown long enough for the pressure to get to Jared Goff. That's what it all comes down to. It's not whether St. Brown is better than Hobbs. We already know this. It's about whether Hobbs can hold up until the pass rush gets to Goff. That's all it comes down to. I expect McKinney to shade over to where St. Brown is much of the game. And I expect to see double teams on St. Brown, because that is really the strength of the Lions offense, is trying to find ways to get St. Brown the ball. Equally important on running downs, Cooper, Walker, and McDuffie need to be crashing down to support against the run. We need to bottle up the center of the offensive line and not allow them to get push. We have great linebackers that can support the run against the Lions, and we need to see that. All right, let's look at 3 wide receivers, which is really the most interesting situation for this game coming up, and it is where the Lions are the most dangerous. Okay, we've got Williams, St. Brown in the slot. Let's go to nickel personnel for the Packers here. What I expect to see here, if Nate Hobbs is healthy, I expect to see Hobbs move into the nickel against St. Brown, and I expect Williams to go against Nixon, and Tesla, if he's healthy, to go against Valentine. Now, this is big for me because Tesla is a very talented rookie, but he's still a rookie. And I think Carrington Valentine is a better player right now than Tesla is right now. So if Valentine can shut down Tesla and Nixon can neutralize Williams, we need Nate Hobbs again to hold up against St. Brown long enough for Parsons, LVN, and Rashawn Gary to get to Jared Goff. It's that simple. It is that simple, my friends. So that's an early look at the matchups in this game. I'm very excited about the potential for the Packers. Everything is in front of the Packers to win this game if they execute. The Lions are not a team that are going to beat themselves. More likely than not, the Green Bay Packers need to win the game against the Lions through execution, efficiency, and not being afraid to take risks. Matt LaFleur, I know you're a regular to the podcast, so listen to this, Matt. You need to be aggressive in this game. 4th and short is 4th and go if you're on the Lions side of the field and you can't kick a field goal. The Packers need points, they need to be efficient, and they need to hold serve as much as possible on defense. If they can do these things, the Packers can win the game on Sunday, but the game is not going to be handed to the Packers. It's not you got Micah Parsons, the Lions just aren't going to show up. The Lions are going to be there on Sunday, and they want to win this game, and they have the weapons to win this game. It comes down to which team executes more on Sunday. That's going to be the difference maker. And hopefully the fans can be an X factor by being loud and impacting the Lions' offense. That is the biggest thing that the Packers fans can do in this game, is to be loud and obnoxious when the Lions are on offense, and hopefully allow a player like Micah Parsons to make a play or two that makes the difference in this game. Before Micah Parsons came, I thought the Packers would win this game. Micah Parsons is an X factor, but he's not the factor in this game. It's got to be everybody in this game. It's going to come down to Wyatt and Brooks at defensive tackle. It's going to come down to Nate Hobbs doing just enough at corner to keep St. Brown under control. It's going to be about Cooper and Walker supporting on run defense and in coverage and pass defense. It's going to be about Xavier McKinney making a big play or two. It's going to be about forcing turnovers. All the things that the Packers need to do, they can do to win this game. So we'll be back tomorrow with an update on who participated in practice today. And we're going to continue to dive into the X factors that can help the Packers win this game as we get closer and closer to game day. Give us a like and subscribe. And as always, go Pack Go.